Hi, everybody. Very good morning and good evening to all of you. So, welcome to the session on the generative AI and Azure AI Studio as part of the season of AI. So, as part of this, talking about what is artificial intelligence. So, it's primarily any software that is exhibiting human like capabilities, right? It could be visual perception, it could be text analysis, it could be speech services, it could be decision making services, right? So if I talk about the visual perception, right, where you have got the ability where you can make use of the computer vision capabilities to either accept or interpret or process the input. It could be from images, it could be from a chunk of video streams, or it could even be the live cameras. Moving on to text analysis, if I talk about the text analysis and specifically the conversation, right, you are trying to make use of the natural language processing where you not only read but also try to generate realistic responses and you try to extract the semantic meaning of the text. That is where comes the text analysis. Then we have got speech, where you try to recognize the speech as the input and then you synthesize the spoken output. So the combination of the speech capability together is going to help you apply the NLP analysis of the text, where you can enable a form of human compute interaction, which is also today kind of known as conversational AI. So that is where we have got the speech service, and then there is also decision making, where you have got the ability where you try to make use of some past data, past experience, and correlations, where you access the situation, take appropriate actions on it. So it could be a very simple example where you try to recognize anomalies in the sensor reading and then take those automated action to prevent failure or system damage. So these are the kind of capabilities which are increasingly within the reach of everyday applications that we use day in day out and kind of help you make them more intuitive, more useful from a perspective of different use cases in terms of the real life situation. Now, talking about data science, machine learning, and AI. So, if I talk about the data science, it is kind of a discipline which is going to focus primarily on processing as well as analyzing of the data. So, you try to apply some statistical techniques where you visualize, you uncover relationships and patterns within the data, and then you define the experimental models which is going to help you explore those patterns. So, a very simple example, if I talk in terms of the data sciences, let's say you are running an e-commerce online store, and data science is more of like being a super organized analyst for your business, where you want to collect all sorts of customer data, whether there is a purchase history or it is user demographics or there are website clicks. And then you would use statistical tools to analyze this data as well as uncover the trends. As an instance, let's say you find that the younger customers are more likely to buy a certain brand of clothing, right? Or certain brand of shoes. This data can then be used to inform making decisions, right? So that is where we have got the data science. After data science, we have got the machine learning. So think of machine learning primarily as a subset of the data science, which is going to deal with the training and validation of the predictive model. So typically, a data scientist is going to prepare the data, then use that data to train a model based on the algorithm, where you are going to exploit the relationship between the features in the data to predict values with respect to the unknown labels. So if I talk in terms of the machine learning, let's say machine learning, again, it is because built on the top of the data science, you try to create algorithms where you are learning from the data being explicitly programmed. So going back to our previous example of the data science, the e-commerce store where we were trying to analyze some clothing or the shoe trend. So let's say there is a machine learning model which is trying to predict which customers are more likely to buy a particular item, right? So this model would constantly learn and improve as more data is fed into the model. And thereafter comes the artificial intelligence. So when we talk about the artificial intelligence, again, usually but not always, it is built on top of the machine learning, where you create software which is going to emulate one or more characteristics of your human intelligence. So specifically with respect to AI, you encompass both data science and machine learning, and you try to create intelligent machines which can mimic human cognitive functions, where you try to learn something, try to do problem solving. right? So that is where comes the AI. So that is where we have data science, machine learning, and the artificial intelligence. Now, today we hear this buzzword called as generative AI. So when it comes to generative AI, you're trying to this is more of type of AI where you're trying to create new content. It could be text, it could be images, it could be music, it could be videos. So it's more of like a superpowered copywriter or an artist where you're trying to learn the underlying patterns of things, use that knowledge to generate entirely new creations. On that very front, we're going to today look at some of the options around the open AI models and how this generative AI can fit into different use cases. Now, how generative AI works? You train on the data. So there is a huge amount of data which basically is used as a training data. Thereafter, you do a pattern recognition and then you do a content creation. So let's say if I were to generate an image of a human, right, which should ideally be a hypothetical image, right? So you try to learn from lot of real images of the human data, and then you try to use those images, try to recognize a pattern, and then do a content creation based on what is asked. So that is where today, if we look at things around content generation, where it is text generation or whether it is image generation, we have got whole lot of bunch of models which are available that we can use. Now, talking about considerations for responsible AI, when you're trying to make use of generative AI or AI, right? At the same time, considerations are also very, very important, right? So we need to understand as an engineers how to integrate these AI capabilities into the applications and services at the same time taking care of the considerations, right? So that is where we basically talk in terms of different considerations in terms of fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security. There is inclusiveness, transparency, accountability, right? So when it comes to fairness, your AI system should treat all the people fairly, right? As an example, let's say you're trying to create a machine learning model where you want to support a loan approval application for a bank. Now, this model should make prediction of whether or not this loan should be approved without incorporating any bias based on gender. It could be ethnicity or it could be any other factors which could result in unfair advantage or disadvantage to some specific group of applicants. So fairness of the machine learning system is highly, highly important where you need to consider this aspect. Then we have got reliability and safety. Your system should perform reliably and safely. Right? Think about an AI-based software system for an autonomous vehicle, right? Let's say Tesla. Or there is a machine learning model which diagnoses patients and symptoms and then recommends the prescriptions. So you should ensure that these are all reliable, these are all safe. So as with any software, AI-based software application development has to be subjected to rigorous testing, rigorous deployment management process, where you're trying to ensure that they are working as expected before the release. So this is again very, very important key factor to consider, specifically when it is an autonomous vehicle, right? It becomes very, very important to have that reliability and safety factor in place. Then we have got privacy and security. They should be secure and they should also respect the privacy. So the machine learning model on which your AI system is based has to rely on large volumes of data. This could contain personal details, which always should be kept private because it could be uh, PII data. Even after models are trained and the system is in production, they try to make use of the new data to make predictions to take action, which may be subject to any of the security concerns. So there has to be specific appropriate safeguards that you should take to protect the data as well as your customer content should be implemented. In terms of the inclusiveness, your AI system should empower everyone and engage people. So it should be built for everybody, not for just one part of the society, regardless of the physical ability, gender, ethnicity, any other factor. It should be available for everybody to use. Transparency. Your system should be understandable. User should be made fully aware of the purpose of the system, how the system is going to work, and what are the limitations that may be expected out of the system, right? So these are the specific things that you should consider. And then lastly, accountability. So people should be accountable for the AI system. So though there are many AI systems seen which are operating autonomously, ultimately it's a responsibility of the developers who are trained and who have trained and validated the models which they're using, and then they are defining the logic that base on which the base decision of the model prediction is going to work. So these are some of the considerations with respect to the responsible AI. We did talk about some of the challenges and risk of AI, like biases, errors that can cause harm, sorry, data that could be exposed, solutions that may not work for everybody, like a home automation assistant which is providing no audio output, specifically for a person who is visually impaired, right? And then trusting a complex system. So if it is a financial tool which is making investment recommendations that this is the stock or this is the mutual fund where you should invest, right? You have to basically think about all of those challenges and risk with the AI. Now, when it comes to generative AI in Azure, we have got the Azure OpenAI service available, which is a Microsoft cloud solution where you can deploy, customize, and host the generative AI models. And it is going to bring together the best of the OpenAI's cutting edge models as well as different set of APIs with the security and scalability of the Azure cloud platform. So as part of this, we will kind of look at how to train on the data, how the pattern recognition is going to work, and then how the content creation is going to be primarily processed upon, right? So that's where we have got the generative AI in Azure. So if you look at this very simple example of the generative AI in Azure, we have got the Azure OpenAI service, which has got all the models available. You have got an application UX, which is the user interface of the application. This user interface of the application is going to interact with the Azure speech service. It could be cognitive service. It could be a translator text service. So there are a whole lot of these services built into the Azure AI Studio, which you can use. So if you want to build something around speech, it could be text to speech to text, or translating into some another language. All of those things can primarily be used as part of the Azure AI Studio. And then you directly interact with the Azure OpenAI service to make use of these specific offerings as part of the API. Apart from it, we have also got Microsoft Copilot. So this is an AI assistant which is integrated primarily with most of the Microsoft applications today. Some of them are currently only available as part of the enterprises. And it leverages the large language model where you want to understand your work, provide suggestions, automate tasks, generate different creative text formats. So essentially acting as your AI co-pilot to boost your productivity. I hope all of you would have heard about GitHub Copilot, where you try to ask it to write some code and then it will generate that code for you. Similarly, if you look at Microsoft Teams, in your Teams meeting, after the meeting is done, you want to generate the meeting notes. You want to generate the action items. You can make use of the Copilot and ask Copilot, hey, can you summarize the meeting notes for me? Can you tell me the key action items from this meeting? Similarly, when you look at Word or PowerPoint, when PowerPoint, you can use Copilot and say, hey, can you generate me a 10 slide deck on generative AI in Azure? Right? It will generate that 10 slider for you. So that's the capability of the Microsoft Copilot today, where it is getting tightly integrated into most of the applications and you can take full use of it, right? So that's where we have got the key capabilities in terms of the Copilot and stuff. Now, when it comes to Azure Cognitive Services, we have got the whole lot of bunch of pre-packaged AI services that you can integrate into your solutions, right from the language to speech to vision to decision making, where in the language we have text analysis, Q&A, language understanding and translation. In the speech, we have got a speech recognition, speech synthesis, speech translation, speaker recognition. These things are today being used in the industry use case, right? Something like, let's say, if there is a AI bot or let's say an AI system which is taking the first round of interview to hire a person, speech recognition and speaker recognition plays a very important role. Using these mechanisms, you can detect whether the speaker who is, whether the interview, the person who is giving the interview is the right person or the wrong person, right? So leveraging these techniques, you can identify those specific false use cases. In terms of vision, we have image analysis, video analysis, image classification, object detection, facial analysis, optical character recognition. Some of these services we use day in, day out, right? For example, today there are these AI enabled cameras where you simply connect it to Wi-Fi and kind of detects any motion that happens at your home, right? Let's say even if your baby is crying, it will detect that motion and immediately notify you. So that is where it's trying to make use of the video analysis and the object detection as well as facial analysis to serve that information and the alert. Decision making, where you can try to make anomaly detection, content moderation, content personalization. So these are all part of the Azure applied AI services. Specifically with respect to the speech service, we have speech to text, text to speech, as well as you speaking in one language and it translating it into the another language. So you've got a whole lot of bunch of these services available tightly integrated into the Azure AI speech service. In terms of the speech scenarios, we have got captioning, we have got audio content creation, then there are call center use cases, voice assistant use cases. So with respect to captioning, you try to synchronize the captions with your input audio, apply some profanity filters, get the partial results. You again go ahead and apply some customization and identify the spoken languages for multilingual scenarios. In terms of audio content generation, you want to use AI voices or the neural voices to make interactions with the chatbots or even the voice assistants where more natural and which are more natural and more engaging, right? Where you can convert digital text like ebooks into audiobooks or enhance your in-car navigation system where you ask the in-car navigation system to start the routing to this specific route or path or the destination. Then we have got the call center where you can transcribe the calls in the real time or process a batch of calls, uh, which is primarily going to redact personally identifying the information and then extracting the insights. It could be something like a sentiment to help you with a call center use case. And then voice assistant, where you try to create a natural human-like conversational interface for the application and the experience. So if you look at all these applications, like live caption, subtitle and translation, read aloud, dictation, commute, Cortana, these are all making use of the Azure speech services very, very tightly, right? So that is where we have got the speech scenarios. Now, talking specifically about the Copilot stack. So we did talk on AI safety and security. So we have got the Copilot Studio where you have Microsoft Copilot already available. Apart from it, you can build your own Copilot. So let's say I have got my own data and I want to create a Copilot which is based on my data. I can go ahead and build that very Copilot. And then that can be integrated tightly with the Microsoft applications where there is an AI orchestration layer where you try to give your data. You try to use one of the foundation models and the AI toolchain. So let's say if I want to use any of the GPT model or any of the other models which are already available as part of the Azure AI Studio offering, we can kind of use one of those foundation models for our data to create our own Copilot, all baked by the AI infrastructure provided by the Microsoft Azure. So that's primarily the Copilot stack. Now, with respect to this, we have got the Azure AI Studio, which is a unified platform where you try to develop the generative AI applications as well as custom Copilot experiences. So we have got a unified platform where the Azure AI Studio try to unify its various AI services where you have a seamless experience which caters to the diverse AI models as well as different data sources. Then we have got data and search where there is a data integration. There are different search technologies available. There are also OpenAI foundational models and other open source AI models available from different partners. And then safe and responsible AI, where you emphasize the importance of building the AI responsibly with the advanced safety tools. And then there's this complete development lifecycle, which is going to support any emerging trend like LLM ops, where you try to manage the lifecycle and versioning of your AI system. So that's why we have got the Azure AI Studio. Now, let's look at AI in action, where I will give you some of the use cases around Copilot, OpenAI Studio, as well as Azure Speech Studio. So let me deep dive into the hands-on. Perfect. So this is where I am on the Azure portal, and then if I take you to the resource group, which is the Tectrix OpenAI dash RG. I have already got an cognitive search service created. There is also an instance of the Azure OpenAI, and then there is a storage account that I'm going to use to upload some of the data which I will use in my own Copilot. So once I go to the OpenAI service, I have already created this service in the interest of saving some time in the resource creation. You can click on go to Azure OpenAI Studio. So there are two different things. One is the OpenAI Studio and another is the Azure AI Studio. So AI Studio pretty much incorporates all of the services from a perspective of the AI, right? So different AI services, whether it is about speech, language translation, vision or documenting, content safety, whole lot of bunch of those services are available right over here as part of the Azure AI Studio. And then there is this Azure OpenAI Studio, which kind of has got some playgrounds like a chat playground, a completion playground. Then there is Dale. So let's say if I go to Dale and then I ask generate an image on how generative AI, or let's say how would Bangalore look after 10 years. So what prompt you give, with respect to that prompt, it is primarily going to generate the image. So you can see it has generated this image in terms of how Bangalore would look after 10 years. So similarly, you can you can make use of the service and integrate it tightly into your applications. Apart from it, we have got the completions playground as well, where you can start typing over here and then it will try to kind of generate things based on it. There are also some pre-uploaded examples. Let's say generate a product description in bullet points for a renter's insurance product which offers customizable coverage, rewards and incentives, flexible payment options, and a peer-to-peer referral program. The tone should be persuasive and professional. Once I click on generate,